Your height isn't entirely decided by your genetics. Your DNA doesn't say you will be 5 feet 7 inches or 6 feet 4 inches. What your DNA actually does is set the upper limit of height you can achieve, which is usually way taller than you might think. And you can literally force your way to achieve that potential. Consider this fascinating example. The average South Korean man stands at around 5 feet 9 inches, while the average North Korean man stands at just 5 feet 5 inches. That's a 4-inch difference despite them having nearly the same genetic background. The reason for this dramatic difference isn't genetics. It's access to proper nutrition, healthcare, and lifestyle factors. Without the right environmental conditions, it's nearly impossible to reach your full height potential. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Take Devin Larratt, one of the most dominant arm wrestler. If you look at his arms, you'll notice something remarkable. His dominant arm is actually longer than his non-dominant arm. This isn't a birth defect or genetic anomaly. It's the result of years of targeted mechanical stress that literally reshaped his bone structure through consistent training. So the question becomes, can you actually communicate with your bones and tell them to grow? The answer is yes, and today I'm going to show you exactly how this works. The foundation, Wolff's Law. Everything we're about to discuss is built on a principle discovered in 1892 by German surgeon Julius Wolff. He observed that bone in a healthy animal will adapt to the loads under which it is placed. This became known as Wolff's Law, and it's the foundation of everything we know about bone remodeling and growth. Think of it this way. Imagine you're the manager of a construction company, and every day you're asked to carry heavier and heavier loads. What would you do? You'd hire more workers and get stronger equipment, right? Your bones work exactly the same way. When you place consistent stress on them, they don't just get tired, they adapt by becoming stronger, denser, and in many cases longer. This is why bodybuilders have much denser bones than the average person. It's why Devin Larratt's trained arm grew longer than his untrained arm. And it's exactly why the Masai Tribe from Kenya, who practice daily jumping rituals, are some of the tallest people on Earth with an average height of 6 feet 3 inches. But mechanical stress is only half the equation. There's also something called hormonal stress, and when you combine both types correctly, you can literally force your bones to grow at any age. The key is understanding how these systems work together. Now, before we dive into the specific techniques, we need to talk about the foundation that makes everything else possible: nutrition. You can think of bone growth like building a skyscraper. You need the right materials delivered at the right time, or construction stops completely. The most important building block is protein. Here's something that might surprise you. Your bones are actually about 50% protein by volume. Most people think bones are just calcium, but that's not true. A comprehensive study published in the Journal of Clinical Nutrition found a direct correlation between protein intake and height growth in adolescence. The participants who consumed more protein grew significantly more than those who didn't. So how much protein should you consume? On average, you should consume 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight each day. So if you weigh 70 kilograms, that's 105 grams of protein daily. This provides the amino acids your body needs to build and repair bone tissue, especially in the growth plates where bones actually lengthen. But protein alone isn't enough to turn that raw material into solid bone. Your body needs several key helpers, and the most important one is calcium. It's no coincidence that countries with high dairy consumption, like the Netherlands, tend to have some of the tallest populations on Earth. Dairy products like milk are one of the best sources of bioavailable calcium. Research shows that calcium intake alone can make a difference of up to 6 centimeters in your final height. During the growth process, your body needs a constant supply of calcium to build and harden the bone tissue in your growth plates. Without enough calcium, your bones simply can't grow properly, no matter how much protein you're eating. The zinc factor and hidden minerals. Moving up our nutritional hierarchy, we encounter zinc, and this is where things get really interesting. A massive meta-analysis of 33 different studies found that zinc supplementation can increase height velocity by up to 0.4 centimeters per month. That's an additional growth of nearly 5 centimeters per year you could be missing if you're not getting enough zinc. But what does zinc actually do? Zinc helps your body make and activate specialized cells called osteoblasts. Think of them as your bone's construction workers. These cells are responsible for laying down new bone mass. Zinc also regulates the pathways that facilitate bone remodeling. In simple terms, zinc makes sure that your body can actually use all the protein and calcium you're consuming. The best sources of zinc include red meat, eggs, pumpkin seeds, cashews, and lentils. But here's what the Masai Tribe reveals about one of nature's most overlooked height boosters. And it's not what you'd expect. While everyone focuses on their legendary jumping techniques, there's a hidden nutritional secret behind their towering 6 feet 3 inches average height. Boron. This trace mineral might be the most underestimated factor in their genetic advantage. Research shows that adequate boron intake can increase calcium absorption by up to 40% and significantly boost the effectiveness of vitamin D and magnesium, the exact combination needed for sustained bone growth. So while you're focusing on jumping techniques and protein intake, don't overlook this mineral multiplier. Add boron-rich foods like almonds, raisins, avocados, and leafy greens to your diet. Or consider a boron supplement to unlock the Masai advantage in your own height journey. With our nutritional foundation solid, we can now move to the mechanical stimulation that actually triggers bone growth. The Masai Tribe has unknowingly perfected this process through their traditional jumping ceremonies, and understanding their method is crucial to your success. The Masai perform specific vertical jumps that creates microfractures in their shin bones. These are microscopic cracks in the bone structure that signal your body's repair mechanisms to spring into action. And here's the key. When your body repairs these microfractures, it doesn't just patch them up. It builds the bone back stronger and longer. The jumping technique itself follows 3 critical rules. First, while jumping, you want to feel stiffness throughout your entire body from your head to your heels. This ensures maximum force transmission through your skeleton. Second, your knees and hips should be loose but not locked. Think of them as shock absorbers. Third, and this is crucial, never let the back of your feet touch the ground between jumps. All the power should come from your ankles, creating maximum stress on the bones you want to lengthen. You should practice this jumping technique for 10 to 15 minutes every day, but if you are into sports like basketball or volleyball, you can substitute these sports instead of Masai jumps, as they are considerably similar in practice, such as jumping, sprinting, and high-intensity movements. Hormonal optimization, the IGF-1 system. Here's what most people think. They think growth hormone is what makes you taller, but that's not quite accurate. Growth hormone is more like a messenger. The real height-building hormone is something called IGF-1, or insulin-like growth factor 1. Here's how it works. Your pituitary gland releases growth hormone, which then travels to your liver and gets converted into IGF-1. This IGF-1 is what actually tells your growth plates to start building new bone tissue. The fascinating thing about IGF-1 is that you can manipulate its production through strategic eating patterns. When you consume carbohydrates, they get broken down into glucose, which causes a spike in blood sugar. To manage this blood sugar, your pancreas releases insulin. When insulin levels rise in your liver, it triggers increased IGF-1 synthesis. But here's the key. This effect is dramatically amplified when you consume carbs after a period of fasting. During fasting, your growth hormone levels naturally increase. Then when you break the fast with carbohydrates, the insulin spike creates a massive surge in IGF-1 production, sometimes up to 2,000% higher than normal levels. Here's something that will completely change how you think about exercise and height growth. While most people focus on stretching or hanging exercises, there's one activity that can boost your growth hormone levels by up to 700% in just 30 seconds. That activity? Sprinting. Research published in multiple exercise physiology journals shows that a single 30-second all-out sprint can increase growth hormone levels by anywhere from 200% to over 700% compared to resting levels. This isn't a small bump. We're talking about massive hormonal surges that rival what you get from growth hormone injections, but completely naturally. Research shows that sprinting not only boosts growth hormone, but also increases IGF-1 levels. This creates a powerful 1-2 punch. First, you get the massive growth hormone surge from the sprint itself. Then that growth hormone converts to IGF-1, which goes to work stimulating bone growth and remodeling. The timing protocol works like this. Fast for 16 hours, then break your fast with a meal containing both carbohydrates and high-quality protein. The carbs trigger the insulin IGF-1 response, while the protein provides the building blocks your bones need to actually grow. The short, explosive nature of sprinting creates maximum stress without overtraining. This triggers multiple growth hormone pulses throughout your workout, each one signaling your bones to repair and grow stronger and potentially longer. Combined with proper nutrition and recovery, sprinting becomes a natural growth hormone factory that can significantly enhance your height optimization. Now you know how to stimulate your bones and hormones for maximum potential, but all of this nutritional and mechanical stimulation means nothing if you don't optimize the time when growth actually occurs, during sleep. This isn't just about getting 8 hours of sleep. It's about sleeping at the right time and creating the right conditions for maximum growth hormone release. Studies show that 90% of your daily growth hormone production happens during the first few hours of deep sleep, specifically between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. This isn't just when you happen to be sleeping. It's when your circadian rhythm naturally programs your body for growth hormone release. If you go to bed at midnight instead of 11 p.m., you're missing a significant portion of this critical window. But getting to bed early isn't enough. You also need to create the perfect environment for growth hormone production. This means your room needs to be completely dark. Even small amounts of light can suppress melatonin production, which disrupts your circadian rhythm and reduces sleep quality. You also need to avoid anything that might spike your insulin in the hours before bed, because insulin is antagonistic to growth hormone. This means no sugar, no fruit, and no large meals within 3 hours of bedtime. Even the blue light from screens can suppress melatonin production, so you should avoid phones, computers, and televisions for at least an hour before sleep. The Masai Tribe naturally follows this protocol because they don't have access to artificial lighting or processed foods. They go to sleep shortly after sunset and wake up with the sunrise, perfectly aligning their sleep schedule with their natural growth hormone production cycle. These principles aren't just theoretical. They're backed by real-world examples of people who have dramatically increased their height well past the supposed age limits. On a population level, South Korea provides compelling evidence of how environmental factors override genetic limitations. In just 40 years, the average height of Korean men increased by over 6 inches. This wasn't due to genetic changes. It happened too quickly for that. Instead, it resulted from improved nutrition, better healthcare, and lifestyle modifications that optimize growth conditions for entire generations. Now that you understand the science, let's talk about implementation. Your daily routine should integrate all these elements into a systematic approach that maximizes your growth potential. Start each morning with a protein-rich breakfast that includes high-quality sources like eggs, meat, or dairy. Add calcium-rich foods like leafy greens and ensure you're getting adequate zinc from sources like pumpkin seeds or red meat. Don't forget about boron. You can get this from foods like raisins, avocados, and almonds. In the afternoon, engage in your mechanical stimulation routine. This could be the Masai jumping protocol, strategic cycling with progressive seat height increases, or a combination of both. The key is consistency. You need to perform these activities every single day to maintain the growth signal. After your physical stimulation, immediately move into your recovery protocol. This is when the actual remodeling occurs, so this recovery phase is just as important as the exercise itself. In the evening, time your nutrition to support hormonal optimization. If you're incorporating intermittent fasting, break your fast with a meal containing both carbohydrates and protein to maximize IGF-1 production. Take your supplements in the evening to support overnight growth hormone production. Finally, prioritize your sleep schedule above everything else. Be in bed by 11 p.m., ensure complete darkness in your room, and avoid screens and sugar for at least 3 hours before bedtime. This sleep window is when all your preparation pays off in actual bone growth. When you provide the right mechanical stimulus, nutritional support, and hormonal environment, your bones will respond by growing stronger, denser, and longer. Your genetics may have set the blueprint, but your habits determine whether that blueprint becomes reality. Every day you delay is another day of potential growth lost. The time to start is now. For those ready to take complete control of their height potential, grab the ultimate guide to grow taller. Buy Beyond Genetics for the complete system with exact protocols, meal plans, and troubleshooting guides. These kind of videos takes a lot of research and effort to make, so like, share, subscribe, and comment your height goals below in the comments. Remember, your height destiny is in your hands, and you can achieve it if you lock in. And as always, go beyond genetics.